Kids, this is my vlog for June the 8th, 2011, and how are you? It's Friday, it's the end of the week, the weekend's beginning, how thrilling. Hope you all have some wonderful plans. As I've been reporting over this week, it's been raining and raining and raining and raining, and we need it badly. And we could use probably another 30, 40 days of this before we get back to where we should be. Depending on how hard the rain is. But definitely it's nice, and it's a nice change, and it makes for a great excuse to have long naps during the day. Now, I have been trying the best I can to not only for myself but for other people that perhaps are suffering, to document what's been going on with me for about the last 7 months. And it gets challenging at times. And the fact is, I also like to talk about other things too. So you never know, or some people never know, when I'm just being serious or if I'm being sarcastic or something like that. Most of you that have been watching me or know me pretty well. You can tell when I'm being serious or talking about a serious subject, or you know when I'm just being a smartass. Now, for example, I did my second video, because I erased all my first 400 and something videos, and I did a second video about rape. And I've gotten some nice private messages, like I did on the first one, from all over the world, of people that are victims of or dealing with victims of rape. And that's a serious video. That's not something you make fun about. Rape is not a joke. There's nothing funny about it. Now, the other day I made a video about, several days ago, I forget when, I made a video about seeking therapy. And the premise of the video was that there's very little in the way of therapeutic alternatives in my small little town. And that one of the ways I deal with that is by using YouTube. And actually talking to myself, or using, because that's what you do in therapy essentially, is you sit in front of yourself, which is a mirror with the therapist, and you talk. And I got an interest, and I've gotten like new subscribers on YouTube, and that have gotten, I guess, intrigued by my videos of one sort or another. And this particular one got a few new subscribers the same day I put it out. And one put this really interesting note. He sent me a note saying, and it went up, like pointing up, like you equal batshit crazy. And I thought to myself, geez, breaking news. No shit. I mean, on the slowest day of my year, when I slept 17 and a half hours, I still managed to have 4 hallucinations in that day, where I actually slept 17 and a half hours. But in my awake time, I still managed 4 hallucinations. And for someone that doesn't even know me, to put "you're equals batshit crazy" tickled me to death. I have to say, thanks for watching and paying attention and pointing out the obvious. Now, if we could only find a solution, that would be great. But as far as like pointing out the obvious, it's like a 2-year-old pointing to, you know, a tree and saying, "Look, mommy tree," or something like that. Or pointing to the male figure in the house and saying "dada," or the female of the house right before it starts sucking on the tit and saying "mama." I love when people point the obvious out to me. Thank you. I know that I seem totally whack and totally crazy, but sometimes I'm actually able to tell what is totally obvious, and I hope that comes through in my videos. Now, I can't tell the difference between normal, abnormal, and paranormal, but I do know what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is obvious. Now, where it fits in the realm of obvious, whether it's just totally a hallucination or something from another realm or something that's actually from this realm, I can't tell the difference anymore. But I can tell you what I'm seeing. So yeah, I know it's a tree. But thanks, and I appreciate your interest in watching my videos. Keep watching. Maybe one day I'll go viral. Silly. Now, I've been listening patiently to the political discourse going back and forth and back and forth, and we're getting more and more, just like I predicted years ago, more extreme, more intolerance, and everything else. Now, somebody on one of the groups I'm on made a post today about helping somebody out, about how many times they had already like filed for divorce and stuff since 2000, and how they just finished helping a friend file for divorce. And I made a point to say, oh, well, that just shoots the right, sacred marriage thing right in the foot. I mean, there's no such thing as a sacred marriage. It just doesn't exist in the reality of the world. And what I got back was an interesting response. Not only did they agree, but now I live in a small rural county in Florida that is extremely white by population. I mean, extreme majority of white people, very extreme. They're also extremely Christian, and they're also extremely Republican and extremely conservative. And that's just the nature of where I live. Now, I am one of those cockroaches that happen to slip under the door, and I live here too, but I'm certainly not in the majority by any means, with the exception of the fact that I'm white, but they'd still light me on fire in a cross on a front yard if they had a chance. Now, they gave me this friend of mine gave me this interesting figure, because she's really into like getting on the internet and finding out stuff. There has been in my county alone since January over 1,000 divorces filed in this small county. Now, this small county consists of some children, a lot of disabled people of all ages, some working class rednecks with really bad teeth that mostly live in broken down mobile homes and barely get along, serving the elderly, which is the other biggest population here, and not the rich elderly, but the working class, middle class, and lower middle class elderly, just kind of hang on and keep on keeping on. And there's, and the whole community seems to have horrible teeth, because very few dentists, and the few that are out there either have long waiting times or are completely incapable of taking care of somebody's mouth without putting them in severe pain. So it's not like paradise, but it is heavily Republican in their voting, like more than 78%, I think, vote Republican. And they live in hovels that look like, oh, and the other large group of people here are from 60 to maybe 16, 17 to 60, drug dealers and drug addicts. So yeah, that's what real white Republican Christian America looks like. And the place is covered in churches. They're on like every single block, and some of them, are falling apart hovels from the late 1890s, and then others are these like magnificent palaces of grandeur that cost tens of millions of dollars to make, and they're like these huge mega churches. And for such a small county with such a small population, I can't figure out how these places get filled up or how they all survive, because there's just not that many people And a lot of the people in the county are so disillusioned or have been so abused by religion that they don't go. So uh, it's interesting to then watch these political debates, both on the right and the left, talking about an America that just really doesn't exist. It just doesn't. The left is fearful of this, right-wing Christian, mean, angry people that basically are a bunch of hypocrites, and they don't really exist. I'm sure they do go out and vote against their own, they go cut their nose off to spite their face, because a lot of them are on food stamps, because I stand behind them in grocery stores, and a lot of them are on welfare of one form or another, or on Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all these other programs, and yet they're voting against their own, best interests. And then you have the shrill elitists on the left that are not necessarily so elite. I mean, at least in my neighborhood, some of them have some money, yeah, but they can get very shrill and very intolerant, and the worst thing you can do to an ignorant person is scream at them. I found that out when I did Occupy. If you start screaming at the ignorant, it doesn't make them come over to your side. It doesn't make them see your point of view. It just makes them more angry and more content in their ignorance. And then they just get a firm stand, and they just stand there like a door or like a pole or a post, and you get nothing accomplished. So I wanted to share that with you today. I thought that was kind of interesting to figure out as I went through this week, and love the rain. Hope it keeps going on. It's been so calming for my nerves, and it's also been relaxing for the soul. And the sound of the rain on the roof, since it's not leaking, is wonderful. So I'll talk to you all later. And remember, equals batshit crazy. Have a nice day.